This is the Killer Innovations Podcast with Phil McKinney. Keep in mind that the information and opinions expressed in this podcast are Phil's, and Phil's alone, and they don't necessarily reflect those of his past, current, or future employers. Now, here's Phil McKinney.
It's my personal belief that we're at the edge of really what I would refer to as a perfect storm of innovation. There's a lot of the technology trends that are all emerging. So if you take in one example, Chrysler's law of disk storage, and you look at total amount of disks that are purchased today, not density of disks, but total disk capacity. So take a look at all the disk drives that are purchased, add them all up, and we're seeing a doubling effect somewhere in about the 22 months. Well, we're into, I think if I recall back to the chart that we use internally, we're probably going to be breaking through 250 exabytes a year. Not 250 exabytes total, 250 exabytes sold in a single year here coming up in 2010, 2011. Now, what we do is we look at a variety of these trends, whether it's Reed's law, the value of the network, Metcalfe's law, Moore's law, Chrysler's law of disk storage. You look at all of those, and we kind of look at those convergences to see what's happening. What we believe is there is this perfect storm of a variety of these trends all converging over the next 10 to 15 years that are going to result in some fundamental shifts in what impact that's going to have on technology and the experiences that we're going to have. And on with that basis, then what we have developed really is this timeline to take a look at what's going to happen when, not so much from a technology perspective. What I'm going to focus on is sharing with you what I believe are the experiences that we're going to have just in our day-to-day lives, and specifically around collaboration. So, first up is what we refer to as an always connected. This is an area, I spent 20 years of my career in the telecom industry, specifically in wireless and mobility. And in fact, when I first came to HP, my job was originally as the CTO for the Communications and Media and Entertainment Group, and then 3 years ago moved over to the PCs. So my passion and focus is around networking, network connectivity, and how do you create this always connected. Well, what we're focusing on and what we're seeing in the marketplace is this ability now with enough different network coverage technologies to really deliver this seamless experience, this ability to have what appears to be an always connected experience model with whatever device you have. Now, let's face it. Today, it's not there. It is just too darn hard today for the average consumer to take a device out, power it up, and get it onto the network. Whether it's the SSID and the web key and, turn on my phone when I get off from the airplane, it won't connect, to get back to my Exchange server, to get my email. We all deal with the frustrations. So the objective is how do you make that insanely simple? Not easier, not simpler, but how do you make it insanely simple? And that's really where, and we think there's enough R&D that's going on throughout the industry we're starting to see some early phases of that, but we think that by 2010 we're going to see really the first emergences of this always connected, kind of the seamless experience model where we just make the devices much, much smarter. Virtual collaboration. Part of the challenge today is the fact is that the world is flat. The smartest people are not always in the country or even in the same city that we live in. Just to give you in context of the impact and the issues that it's going to have on a worldwide basis, is if you think about in China, the top 1% of students, the equivalent of the U.S. educational system of national merit honor students. So the top 1% of students in the China educational system is more than the total number of students in the U.S. So their top 1% is more than the total number of students in the U.S. Right? So our ability to collaborate is going to be critical. And our ability to do this as a virtual collaboration, meaning not physically having to be there, but to really drive this ability to do these virtual collaborations. Now, part of the challenge for virtual collaboration is the ability to have immersive experiences, audio, video, the ability to truly collaborate. Now at HP, we have a technology we call Halo that we've developed. It's now deployed around the world, and in fact, I probably spend half my day, every day, inside of one of these Halo rooms, collaborating with teams in Brazil and in India and Tokyo and London, working with teams, developing new products and new technologies. And that ability to do that and be able to have those kinds of collaboration meetings, both physically from the standpoint of time basis, but also in a virtual world, is becoming more and more as a critical asset that people have to be able to take advantage of. Second Life communities. Now, don't get all wound up. I'm not saying that Second Life is going to be the answer. What I'm saying here is that Second Life-like communities, where people can not just do collaboration around a specific task, but build those social networks. You know, the old adage where the best software team is one person, the good software team is everybody that you can fit into one room, and a bad software team is when you no longer can fit them in the same room. Well, those kinds of challenges are facing all of us. The key is, how do you build that social network, the social capital that allows for work and collaboration to happen? My belief is that it's not going to be Second Life, but somebody, and I'm hoping somebody, creates a Second Life community-like experience so that from a business perspective, we truly can get together and have those kinds of interactions that aren't dependent on video and bandwidth, but that you can have that and you can do it on a more casual basis. Think of it as kind of the virtual water cooler type of an approach. Mesh networking. Now, I've been around the telecom industry long enough to know that we've been predicting mesh networks for as long as I've been in this industry. And we continue to predict that it's going to come out. The one nice thing about these kinds of predictions, when I do these 20-year predictions, is the odds are 20 years from now, none of you are going to be in this room, and nobody's going to remember what I predicted. So this is always the nice part about my job, is that I can do these pontifications. But mesh networking is one of those examples where we, historically, if you look at technology predictions, we over-predict what's going to happen in 0 to 10 years. We under-predict what's going to happen in 10 to 20 years. It's just our nature. But in the case of mesh networking, we believe that there's enough topology technologies that are coming out to where we will truly be able to have a true mesh kind of an experience. Mesh networking is going to be critical to deliver broadband connectivity into certain parts of the world where it's just cost prohibitive to put it in today. If you look at what the cost of broadband access is in sub-Saharan Africa, down around South Africa through the cable lays, you're talking about in some countries where 1 month of broadband access is the equivalent of 6 months, 9 months, a year of income for the average resident in that country. Those kinds of technologies just become cost prohibitive from the standpoint of being able to provide that. Our belief is that mesh networking technologies will be the technologies that allow you to literally deploy devices where the devices not only participate in the network, but in effect support the network. And this is becoming more and more important as you think about expanding this always connected experience model. Pervasive network. The pervasive network is really this convergence of both the static, nomadic, and the mobile networks all coming together. The objective here is that when you think about always connected, you think about mesh networking, you think about all the network topologies, which we really achieve when we get to the pervasive network is the fact that you don't think about it. It's just always there. You don't have to think about, am I going to have coverage? Am I going to have dead zone? Am I going to have the ability to have connectivity? Now, that's a good thing. It's also a bad thing, right? There's no place to go hide to find that dead zone where you don't have coverage. Back in the late 80s, when I was active in building out some of the very early analog cellular networks here in the U.S., my wife actually would go and schedule vacation, but she would look specifically at this map that was on the wall in my office because it noted where all the coverage was. And she would specifically pick the coverage where there was no coverage. She would pick vacation locations that had no means of anybody ringing my cell phone. Well, in a pervasive network, there is no place to hide. Now that offers up all other kinds of challenges, But the benefit being is that we no longer have to think about the technology. We have the ability to just take advantage of it. Virtual communities gain legal status. Now, why is this important? I talked before about the importance of Second Life-like communities in virtual collaboration. Now, that doesn't cause a legal issue, for instance, inside of HP, because I can collaborate with an HP employee in Tokyo like I did this morning, or London. We can invent something together. It's owned by HP. When you get into these virtual communities and you have multiple people collaborating and you invent something together as part of this collaboration, who invented it? Where was it invented? What's the legal status? Where does the patent get filed? What triggers the patent filing? What triggers a disclosure as part of the discussion? Where does it sit? Now, there's a big activity underway as far as the overall legal status within virtual communities already, particularly with online gaming today. And I think it's an early indication of some of the challenges that are going to get faced. But the fact of the matter is when you get into these virtual collaborations, where does the legal status sit? And we believe it's going to take a long time to work through this process, such that literally when you have these collaborations in these virtual communities, what's that legal status and how does that get defined and who owns it? And in fact, that these virtual communities, in effect, will gain a legal status. They will have an ability to act as an entity from the standpoint of a legal basis for whether it's work, play, or just shared copyrights and trademarks and patents. And then this is the device that I always dream about, cognitive devices. Now, what do I mean by cognitive? What I mean by cognitive devices is the fact that today, when we buy a device, you upgrade the software or you upgrade the operating system, what happens? We all have to retrain ourselves to figure out how the new software works, how the new operating system works. In the case of cognitive devices, the device has actually has learned over time how you operate, what is important, the kind of information you process on. When the upgrades happen, it applies that profile to the application and in effect adapts to you. So rather than you relearning the device is learning you. Now, in the case of cognitive devices, there's a lot of really great research going on in this space. Now, this is kind of a little bit of a dream for me that we would have it, kind of in that 2028, 2029 kind of time frame, 20 years from now. We think that there's going to be some early weak signals of this coming out over the next 3 to 5 years. We think it'll get better over the next 10 to 15 years, but it'll be closer to 20 years where we'll be able to have, because it requires a rethink of what's device, what's software, and what's personality. And how do you apply personality to those devices? The ultimate objective here with an always connected experience, with the mesh networking, collaboration, cognitive devices is how do we take the technology and push it to the background? Bring the benefit of that technology forward such that the user doesn't have to fight the technology to get the benefit. Let's face it, today, when we give a technology to a consumer in our industries, all of our industries, many times the consumer has to fight the technology to get the benefit. What we believe is this perfect storm is going to allow us to put more intelligence in the devices, more intelligence into the networks, more intelligence into the experiences such that we actually can move the technology to the background. It's not about the technology, it really is about this experience that we can deliver. So, what will this look like? It's nice to talk about timelines, it's nice to talk about items on the timeline. So what I've got here is I've got a little flash concept video that basically takes these items in the timeline and applies them to actual concepts. So what you're going to see here in this video is a collaboration experience using a series of concept products that my design and innovation teams have developed based on this view of the 20 years in the future. So I'm going to stop the video at selected points to give you a little bit more explanation to set the context. In some cases, we would actually bring the concept models with us to actually, you can actually see them. They're in transit on their way back from Berlin because we actually did a big event in Berlin, so I don't physically have the concepts here, but you'll see them in the video, and I'll pause it and be able to give you a little more context. But in this context, it's a collaboration exercise going on. The one gentleman is collaborating with a variety of designers in the fashion industry, and those participants are scattered all over the world, and they literally will show how they do those kinds of collaborations and what we think the experience will look like 20 years out.
We're going out with Mom to the store now. Gotta go. I really miss you, Dad.
Yeah, I know. I miss you too. I'll send you a picture real soon. There are these amazing clouds up here that look like every shape you can imagine. Bye, Sage.
So what this concept is of these wearable data managers. These are literally rings that you wear, no battery, fully storage of your profile. As you approach any device, the device takes on the personality of your profile. You'll also notice in the first part of the video sequence where you can actually take the rings and actually have them display very simple information that the rings contain. But you literally can think of it as this being the data store that you're carrying with you. No longer is it the concept that I have a physical device. These rings, which not only contain your data, but also you'll see through the rest of the video, they are the context for gesture controls. So they set the motions in place based on the movement of the hands and the wearing of these rings.
Hey, Phil, we're ready to kick off the design review. Are you about set? I'm already looking over the first set now. Clive, can you make some quick changes for me? Make the lines more daring and turn the look up a bit.
So this one's a little bit tough to see in the video, but and I have to apologize also. The video is designed for high def, and the projector won't quite show the full edges of the video. But this is an interactive work surface. So this is a concept of saying, why does a PC always have to have a screen and a keyboard? Now we see just straight screen with touch, but in this concept it literally has both a horizontal and a vertical work surface. So you can draw on it from the flat side. The vertical work surface in this example is the collaboration. Everybody can collaborate to that vertical work surface. So this is one contiguous screen, horizontal to vertical, and it's based on some of the work that's being done in flexible displays, etc. So we'll see.
So, Annalisa, I'd like you to try this accessory on for fit. I think it could really work.
We've got demand for a good solid product. Let's take a look.
So this is a concept of what we call volume printing. This is part of the challenge of collaboration, is the collaboration around physical items. How do you collaborate? Now today we have technologies to do 3D printing. This is a different technology, different concept of what we call volume printing. It literally extracts the full 3D object out of the volume such that you literally have size, feel, texture to the overall item versus today's 3D printing technology, which typically is monotone color. It's a polymer print approach to lay down the layers, and it's never quite exact as far as the overall shape and feel. And this addresses one of the key challenges of collaboration, the fact that I can show you a picture of a 3D item on a video screen that you can see, but until you can touch it, until you can experience it, until you can try it on, you're never quite sure whether it's right until you can physically get a hold of it. And this is one of the key technologies that we think is going to be required to truly be able to have the full collaboration experience.
These are close, but I'm going to go a bit smaller. Hold on. Perfect. Phil, send a film model of this pair to my Buenos Aires studio and I'll order 100 additional units from my stores.
Hey, Dad, I drew your airplane on them.
So this is the concept of how you take your collaboration with you no matter where you're at. You know, today, if you come to HP and we did a demonstration and showed you our Halo rooms, these are literally high-definition studios, for lack of a better description. So you have life-size collaboration with people no matter where they are in the world. Those rooms are really expensive. How do you take this collaboration wherever you go? And we've been doing some experiments on these kinds of video collaborations, and what we found is that by having a dedicated device that does these kinds of video collaborations, people feel that it's much more natural. So the concept here is a small device that sits on your desk similar to your phone. You've got your PC, you've got your phone, this being a device that's dedicated to enable you literally to have that kind of connection or experience with other people within your organization. So rather than merging it all into one big massive device like your PC or your desktop, creating a separate device that's focused primarily at these kinds of collaboration experiences. And so in this case, the son is collaborating and talking with his father through this device.
See? Right over there. Do you want me to make you one?
Of course. That's terrific, Sage. I love it. I'm gonna make it my background right now. But listen, I gotta go, okay? Sorry to rush. Bye-bye now.
Bye, Dad. See you later.
Thanks for your help, Phil. See you at the meeting later on tonight.
That was a productive review. We'll make sure the design team is fully ready for the recap meeting. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. Great feedback, everyone.
So in this case, now they've done this, the design team has come together. They now have made their decisions as to the changes they want made. Now there's going to be this recap meeting. Now, part of the challenge of collaboration is time zones, right? So, for instance, today I was on a Halo call with a number of my teams. The challenge being, though, is that somebody has to get up at a weird hour. You know, Taiwan's got to get up, or I got to get up, or I go home, eat dinner, then go back to the office to do the collaborations. One of the technologies that has been worked on for many, many years, and we think is going to have a lot of progress made against it, is the concept of avatars. So we talked before about profiles and the fact of having cognitive devices who know more about you, cognitive devices that literally learn about you. In this next example, literally, this gentleman is going to push up an avatar who literally participates in the meeting on his behalf. So it isn't a situation where you're going to have avatars going out and do your general shopping. In a limited context, in this case, having just gone through this meeting and made certain decisions on the design, to have this avatar go up and now represent you in the final meeting. Now, the fun part of this is the fact is what's more important to this gentleman rather than being in the meeting is actually he wants to go off and play his computer game rather than being in a meeting. Now, how many of us who do our collaboration, we get on the conference call, right? How many, no, don't be shy, right? How many of us put the phone on mute and do our emails? Right? Yeah, right? We all do it, right? So in this case, he's sending his avatar so that he can actually go game. He doesn't have to even listen. He can actually let the avatar deal with what's going to happen in the meeting and doesn't have to worry about it. So this is, this is our own little twist on the issues of productivity gains for employees.
Hey Phil, how's it going? Good to see you. Welcome to the meeting.
So with that, I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to leave some time for some Q&A. So thank you very much.